Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Email Never Sleeps. Make or break moments. The power of your brand's first email is the topic for today. And I really got an exciting guest, Isra Arawi. She's out in the East Coast area, and she chose this topic. I love this topic. So, Isra, why don't you give a little bit of background for our audience and kind of tell everybody who you are and why we're here today, why we're going to talk about this.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Isra, and I actually started in the e-commerce space as an e-com brand owner. I launched a store and I took it from a drop shipping to a private label. Learned all the tricks of e-commerce from
Yeah,
advertisements and setting up a store and
yeah,
management. Um, and I kind of got into email when the great Facebook breakdown happened in 2018, and when things were changing rapidly. I
yeah.
got into email and I found email to be a great source of a stable revenue for my store to keep, to allow me to spend more on the front end and, bring in more traffic.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I started. And what I noticed, I became a deliverability expert for e-commerce stores. And the reason that happened is because when I started with email, there was nobody out there that
Hmm.
I could find as guidance. So I used my store as a pet project to learn email marketing. And yeah, so I'm self-learned in most of the
Yeah.
areas by just testing and learning through that. And in 2019, I kind of took email marketing as a full-time job. Started the Winbox. The Winbox is an educational platform and a service-based platform. And my passion is to teach ecom businesses on how to use it properly to really launch and accelerate your growth.
Yeah. What a
So
cool name, the Winbox, right?
yeah.
Like that's a really cool name. So you have some experience, right? I mean, you've kind of built your brand. Now you're helping others, and I think that that's sort of really great. And the topic that we chose today, or mostly that you chose, was the this first email that comes from a brand.
Hmm.
And I have a lot of opinions, whether or not they're right or wrong, doesn't make a difference. I believe that there's a lot of things that happen in the first email. Sometimes they're owned by the marketing department, sometimes they're owned by the IT department, sometimes they're owned by no department. And so love to kind of get your thoughts on just the first email in and itself. Like why should people really care? Why should brands care about this first email that goes out?
So I'm going to start from the deliverability aspect. And the reason I'm starting with that is because if you can't get in the inbox, you
Mhm.
can't really deliver your other emails. And the
Yeah.
first email is so important because it has the highest open and highest clicks,
Mhm.
and highest engagement. And that's important to Gmail and Yahoo and all the MSPs out there, the mail service providers, to see that the people that you are adding to your list are actually engaging with your email. So it's really important
Mhm.
to when you bring in that traffic, like when they click on submit, they give you their email, your thank you message on after they hit submit should direct them to go to their inbox and look for that email. And
Mhm.
so from a delivery standpoint, it's really important. That first email, we focus on it. It usually brings in a lot of revenue for us across the board on any email that we have in place.
Mhm.
So deliverability wise, it's important for you to build your reputation, to build your domain, to help you stay in the inbox, and to
Mhm.
basically like shake hands with Gmail and Yahoo saying, "Hey, we're new here. Let us in. We're
Right.
good guys."
Yeah.
Um, and then the second part is leaving that first impression with your audience to come back for more. The biggest mistake I've seen that happens on that first email is it's very vague. And after that one, the engagement falls off quickly. So the
Yeah.
content of the email is so important to leave that first impression to
Mhm.
recognize you again when you send another email. So those two are why that email is like the biggest email out of your entire system. So
And Isra, you make a really good point here. And I want everybody to kind of focus on this, right? From a deliverability standpoint, I've seen brands, big brands, right, who send their first email out of an internal platform and not out of their standard email service provider, or they send it on a different platform than that of what they would normally send their marketing emails. Oftentimes it's a different from address. Oftentimes it's a different IP address. And you're basically kind of hurting yourself, right? If you
right.
send your first communication versus your second communication onto two different platforms. So you make a good point from a deliverability, right? It's sort of like the hello Gmail, hello Yahoo, we're here, right? And you're sort of setting up that reputation. So if you're setting your first email on two different platforms, really consider changing it, simply because you don't want to have to sort of try to again build again. And oftentimes when they're sent off of two different platforms, and I'm sure you know this, right? You've seen it, kind of an awkward first email, right? It usually
Right.
comes from no reply at XX or John Smith at WXY. And oftentimes they're text-based emails. They're just almost a confirmation, like, hey, thanks for signing up. And I think that's really, I think that's a key number one thing, is that before you make any material changes to your email, what do you see as you mentioned the word vague, right? And there's all these different aspects and opinions that people have about what should that first email say. What do
Yeah.
you think are the like, top two most important things that, without a doubt, everybody should have in that first email?
So the first email should tell your audience who you are and why they should care.
Mm-hmm.
You have to relate it back to them. Like, you signed up. Here,
Yep.
I'm going to tell you why you should continue to open our email. So that's the number one.
Right.
And the number two is I like to give control to the subscriber,
Mm-hmm.
giving them a preference. So I will let them update their preference right away.
Mm-hmm.
Leave a positive impression in the fact that a lot of people sign up and they're like, okay, I got like 5 emails from you in the first week. This is
Right.
ridiculous.
Right.
That first email, because it has such a high open, it has high visibility, you
Right.
can segment people right away. So I tell them, hey, welcome, thank you for signing up. Here's how
Mm-hmm.
you're going to benefit from being here. But also, we don't want to bombard you because we know everybody has, different preferences. Let us know how often you want to hear from us and what type of content you want to hear from us.
Right.
Um, those are really important. Even if you have like an incentive inside your email that you're giving them,
Mm-hmm.
that second part, the preference, the giving that power back to your subscriber, has allowed us to like lower that unsubscribe rate significantly and keep people on our list longer. So those two are very important for that first email.
I'm going to take the contradiction and talk about things that you shouldn't put in your first email. And you're more than welcome to disagree or agree with me. One,
Yeah.
you shouldn't put any legalese, right? I mean, we have legalese at the bottom of many emails. Think about like if you meet somebody for the first time, professionally, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to start to spout off a bunch of different things. Eliminate the legalese.
Mhm.
Work with your in-house counsel, work with somebody that you don't have to have that. Again, this is the first time you're making that sort of introduction, that handshake. The second thing is social icons. I like social. Don't get me wrong. I've talked about it before in the past, but we want to focus strictly on why that person signed up, give them the choice, like you had mentioned, tell them what they should expect and when they should expect it.
Yep.
Social can be played off at another time. It could be part of a welcome series. It could be part of whatever your promotional series are, but don't have legalese, don't have social icons just yet. And everyone kind of says to me, well, Andrew, that's the blueprint for all the emails that I see. And I'm like, time out. There's no blueprint for a welcome email, right? Like it has to be
Yep.
individual to your brand.
I'm on board with you 100%. I actually do not like, if I can eliminate the amount of URLs or links inside of an email that are unnecessary, I would, because it also is a factor in, your risk factor in getting in the inbox.
Mm-hmm.
But it's become so common practice, especially in the e-commerce world, where there's this visual
Mm-hmm.
perfection and the bottom has to look exactly like everybody else.
Yeah.
your contact information, your social, and then like this long legal, you know what I'm talking about? And then there's
Yeah.
like a tiny, tiny unsubscribe,
Yeah.
which is where the problem is.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. I'm not a fan of it.
Hmm.
I focus on what the email needs to convey to that
Yeah.
subscriber.
You
So,
know, what's really interesting and what I see that sometimes brands don't do is they don't invoke their tone, their their playfulness, their who they are, right? Sometimes again, this blueprint for an email, and folks, there's no silver bullet in any of this, right? You have to kind of go with what your personality is. Look, if you're a standard B2B software company and you don't joke around and you're not, a funny brand, don't invoke humor, right? In that, but be a part of your brand's voice, right? And remember, these people took the time, however long it took, whatever process they went through to give you their email address. And so there has to be a reward, an award, a thank you, sincerity in that first email. So be very careful. You could test it, right? And that's what we always, you just test it, right? But there's a testing aspect to welcome emails. What about people that don't send a welcome email and just go right into it? What would you advise somebody to do that, and there are a lot of brands that do that, right? Like it's just let's take it home, right? Like sell, 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 or push,
yep.
push, 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 push. Like what would you say to somebody like that?
I mean, it depends. So, if we're working with like most of the time, welcome emails are automated, right? Like we put in place and they're automated as from where the traffic comes. It's highly recommended, even if you like, even like, so say somebody who purchased from you for the first time, they
Mm-hmm.
never signed up for a welcome email. They just came to your store, wanted to buy it and bought.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't leave them at their transactional email. So like, they get the receipt and their transaction, you ignore them basically.
Right.
We actually spend a lot more time on our post-purchase flows
Yeah.
because that person already bought from you. They already committed. They made an exchange. So we're gonna put an extra effort in making them feel like they're part of this brand and feel like, we're giving something more than just a purchase
Mm-hmm.
than just, giving them that purchase.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I highly recommend, like, even if you don't want to write an entire welcome series or a welcome flow for them to nurture them,
Mm-hmm.
give them the important information they need. So like if they bought from you, what are they expecting? Are they
Mm-hmm.
expecting a long delay? How long is it going to take? Show them maybe the box they're receiving. People get excited when they see that, okay, this brand cares enough to like follow up with me until my product gets in my hand.
Right. Right.
So I highly advise it. I don't I don't recommend ghosting your subscribers. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of people who, collect a list of emails and come to me like 6 months to a year and be like, hey, I have this list, but I never emailed them. And
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, well, we have to do a warm up now.
Sure. Right.
You can't just
Yeah.
like send them an email like, hey, we're having a sale. Like,
Right.
I don't
Right.
know you. I
Yeah.
don't recognize you.
Right. It's sort of coming from left field, and then the people are left like, I don't remember getting anything from these
Right,
guys, right? And the next thing you know, you're dealing with other problems, right?
right.
That comes along. When I think about the welcome email or the first email, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
I think about not only where you're right, where it comes from, but I've gone through plenty of brands where I went and I signed up, whether it's a interstitial that jumps up or at the bottom of the site, and I enter my email address. And then sometimes I can't tell whether or not I'm actually subscribed or not because nothing happens. Right. Or, if someone decides, depending upon the channel to where they come in and or whatever, you should let them know that
Yep.
it's coming and where it's coming from. Or even if it's something spirited, like, hey, check your inbox, right? For magic, right? It's or something, right? Like, again, this has to be authentic, right? And that I think is very important. And I've been clamoring about welcome emails or first emails for 15 years now, right?
Hmm.
And there are still quite a few brands that don't necessarily test. And so, in your experience, what have you tested from a first email right out the gate? What are some things that people can sort of test into and learn from it?
Um, I don't think so. Let's talk about the success message because that's really important. Once I hit submit, like you said,
Okay.
that's where it really starts before you even get to that welcome series email. The
Mhm.
first email in there, and that's what I was talking about earlier. I said thank them for signing up and then tell them what to do next. So like we tell them, hey, go to your inbox.
Yeah.
We might be in your primary, but if we're not, check your promo and spam. Like, and we always say we're working hard for deliverability, but
Mhm.
Gmail's always working overtime. So
Right.
excuse us if we're, but then we also tell them if you find it there, drag it to your primary and you're good to go. So like, because no matter how hard you try, deliverability, you're gonna end up in somebody's spam
Right.
folder somewhere.
Right.
So like that's a first impression, but it gives them instructions. People need instructions to know what to do next.
Right.
So and then we go to the welcome email or the first email. Um, the things that I've tested that are really important, make sure that whatever name you choose that shows up in your inbox, choose something that's memorable. Most of the time, people open emails not because of your subject line, it's because they recognize your name in the inbox.
Right.
So don't like switch it too many times. A lot of people like to switch it from this name from this
Mm.
company,
Right.
whatever customers like it's just too much. Choose a name, stick with it, let them get familiar with you.
Great advice.
So that's like the first one that I talk about, like let them recognize you in your inbox.
Yeah.
And then that first email, the content inside, we're always trying to get them to take an action. So I have like a 5-step system that, we are very good at. We welcome them, we
Mhm.
tell them why they're here, we tell
Mhm.
them what the benefit, and then we give them like the benefit. The why is kind of like the pain, the agitation part, the benefit, and then we give them that call to action. We keep it very simple, um,
Mhm.
and short.
Yeah.
That first email should not be long. You shouldn't like give them your lifelong history.
Right.
Leave that for the second email.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then and then I like to test. One thing I like to test is, getting them to open that second email. So like we will test different types, like, hey, I have a story I want to tell you, in the whatever, like open your email tomorrow at this time.
Mhm.
Or if it's an incentive or, something about the company that we test different type of contents to see what can get us the higher open rate on the next email.
Yeah.
Um, so it's really just thinking about how do I get them to keep engaging,
Mhm.
because by the end of that sequence, I have qualified who I really want to put on my list to send
Yep.
campaigns to on a weekly basis. Um,
All great points. Um, I would say from a testing aspect, remember to take your marketer's hat off. We know everything as we're marketers. We know the brand. We know
right,
what we want them to do next. Assume nothing. I'm not saying assume that your subscribers are dumb. That's not what I'm saying. Make everything clickable, right? Oftentimes I've looked at welcome or first emails and only one thing is clickable. And there are many different clickable things. People like to click. People either click with their finger or they click with their mouse or
yeah,
they click whatever. There's tons of opportunity, but don't get frustrated when it comes to testing. You can test length, you can test subject line, you can test free header, you can test different color, size of buttons, small buttons, things that are the copy that's inside the buttons. I spent 6 months testing one email over a period of time. And so don't feel like you can just, oh, let's just throw a test in there, A/B
right.
test for a week. And thanks, we got and move on, right? I mean,
And
there's this,
yeah,
this is the most important email you're going to send, right?
and you can't test more than one variable at a time.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
you have to have that control in. And like you said, a lot links are a big mistake that I see as well. Sometimes, it's funny because I've seen welcome series where they give them like a coupon discount
Yeah.
and there's no button to click on. There's no
And you're
button.
like,
And I'm
what?
just and I'm like, what are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
So like the URLs, I always like to put a URL inside of the text body as well to highlight something. So we always make the image clickable, the text body clickable, a button at the end. And the reason is people have different stages where they click on. So some people will just see the image, click and go. Some people will read, click and go. And then some people get to the end and don't know what to do. And I've noticed, in 8 years of doing this for e-commerce stores now, I've noticed that the button at the end,
Yep.
people forget it, but like most people, if you don't have one there,
Yeah.
we see the lowest conversion because people just get to the end and then just click out. They're like, all
Yep.
right,
Yep.
I'll go to the website later. Like, tell them what to do. That's like my whole thing is the body is so important. Copy. So test copy a lot because again, you're speaking to somebody on the other end. It's not
Yeah.
you're not a robot, but
Yeah.
also make sure that you are testing language that relates to them.
Yep.
I'll give you an example. So like I have a client, they know their problem, they Google it, so we look at the keywords they're Googling and that's the language we use in our email because
Yep.
after they Googled and clicked and signed up, they're going to be like, oh my god, you're reading what I'm thinking because we're using that language. So
That's great advice. All amazing, amazing advice. 100% agree. So let's wrap it up. Over the next minute and a half or minute, what are the key takeaways? So, we've got people from all different areas of responsibility and experience here watching this. Isra, if you had a group of people in front of you, what are some of the 2 or 3 biggest takeaways you want people to go away with and work on?
yeah, so I'm gonna just make it broad and like outside of just not just ecom but for everyone. My key takeaway is when somebody signs up, don't miss the opportunity to send an email instantly. When they sign up, remember your success message needs to tell them what to do. And then that email, that instant email that you're going to send to them, make sure you are connecting with that person. Think about where they signed up from. Did they sign up from your website? Did they sign up from social media? Make sure you tailor that message based on where they signed up.
Yep.
Um, and remember, your first email has a lot to do with your deliverability.
Yep.
So make it memorable. Speak to the other person on their side. Don't be scared. And I always say like people are afraid to sell in that first email. So if you are selling, it's okay to sell. It's
Yep.
just make sure that you are selling the benefit of them, being on your list or signing up with you. So
Yeah.
those are my key takeaways.
Here are mine. They're really simple. If you don't have a first email, make a first email. If you can't make a first email, find somebody like you or somebody else that can help you make this first email. Then once you have that email and it's in, figure out ways to make sure that email gets better and better and better over time. Create your own email, create your own success metrics. Again, whether you sell something a value or a subscription or something different. But folks, you have to make sure that this era of authenticity that we are in, that you have to feel as if you can send something instantly. It's not that hard, everybody. It really truthfully isn't. And so my biggest advice is find one, get one, do one, and improve upon it as time goes on.
I think I
Go
think the
ahead.
last point on that one to say is, like we mentioned, there is no right or wrong way of doing it. There's only your way. And look at your data. Your
Mhm.
data tells you everything. So don't be afraid or like say somebody still told you to do it one way.
Yep.
There's no right or wrong way of doing it. So
Right. You heard it here first, right, everybody? Like, let's get it done, everybody. Get it done. Isra, thank you so much for joining this podcast today, folks. Like we do with every single one of our Email Never Sleep sessions, we'll give Isra's deets at the bottom where you can get a hold of her if you want to look at her experience, look at her company. She's here and certainly is able to help anybody that's out there. I wanted to thank you again, Isra. I wanted to thank our continued support for our audience and people that want to come here and learn. And it's truly been an honor to have you on. And best of luck to you. And everybody, keep emailing the way you're emailing, but just change it up every once in a while. Thank you again, Isra. Have a great day, everybody, and look for our next Email Never Sleeps. Take
thank you.
care.